Huge month for this video sponsor, GeForce Now, powered by CloudGG. They just upgraded their hardware and now you can play games in the cloud utilizing RTX 4080 GPUs. That means up to 4K resolution, maxing out your settings, ray tracing enabled, and ultra-wide support. Best of all, this new Ultimate tier replaces the previous Ultra tier at no extra cost. CloudGG literally just took their best tier and made it even better without charging an extra cent. Click the link below to try it for free or stick around to the end of the video to learn more. Gamers! Oh man, I am beat, let me tell you. Right now, I am neck deep in Summer Games Fest prep. So many emails, so many bookings, so many pre-briefings, meetings, more emails, more meetings. I just want to play video games, man. No one told me that this job would come with all this other shit. Luckily though, I did get to play some video games, like Destiny 2, The Final Shape. Yeah, woo, everyone loves Destiny, woo. Every time I upload a Destiny video, people just gets like random dislikes for no reason. Just like, even when I don't even say anything objectionable, people are like, Destiny, clicks dislike. Fair enough, to be honest, I get it. I know there is little affection for the franchise outside of the group of loyalists still playing it, and to be honest, inside the group of loyalists still playing it. But damn it, it's the end of a 10-year saga and the sunk cost fallacy compels us. I also played that new Rogue Prince of Persia game, by the way. Not bad, especially the music goes ridiculously hard. Link to my preview for that one below the like button. One last thing, yes, Sony just announced a state of play that will go live around 9 hours after this video airs. Classic timing. Regardless, I will cover that one next week as a way to kick off the Summer Games Fest madness. For now though, why don't we talk about some other Sony news, since they're having a bit of trouble staying on message lately. By now, you may have heard about that absolutely disastrous Neil Druckmann interview, only it wasn't disastrous for him, at least not in the end. Okay, so here's what happened. Earlier last week, Sony.com, so the official Sony website written by Sony PR people, posted an interview that they had conducted with Neil Druckmann, head of Naughty Dog and creative director for the Last of Us franchise. In it, Neil apparently said some things that raised a few eyebrows and a few tempers. According to the interview, Neil was broadly very complimentary of and excited about AI and what it would mean for the future of game development. Quote, and I use the term quote very loosely here for reasons that will become apparent very soon. Quote, AI is really going to revolutionize how content is being created, although it does bring up some ethical issues we need to address. With technologies like AI and the ability to do motion capture right from home, we're reducing both costs and technical hurdles, opening the door for us to take on more adventurous projects and push the boundaries of storytelling in games, end quote. This grab met a huge amount of backlash online, with many creatives suggesting that Neil was downplaying the risks that AI poses to the livelihoods of creatives, while also bringing up Naughty Dog's long and well-documented history of crunch. I saw more than one tweet suggesting that Naughty Dog needs to rely on AI in future, since human beings don't want to subject themselves to the famous Naughty Dog culture. Though to be fair, recent reports about the studio's working conditions are far better. The line that really got people going in this interview though was this one, where Neil was teasing the project he's currently working on, and if his words were accurate, he'd be doing some of that old school hype we haven't seen since the Peter Molyneux days. Quote, I'm eager to see how this new game resonates, especially following the success of The Last of Us, as it could redefine mainstream perceptions of gaming, end quote. So, not just a good game, not just a great game, but a game that will redefine our perceptions of video games. Cue endless, relentless dunking on Twitter, Reddit, TikTok. Hell, I wouldn't be surprised if people wrote letters to their local parliamentarian complaining about how bad this quote is. So that was a bad moment for Neil, but that's what happens when you say dumb stuff. Or more specifically, that's what happens when a PR department rewrites your answers to make it sound like you said dumb stuff. And that is exactly what happened. We got wind of it first when Druckmann put out a very carefully worded statement on Twitter saying, quote, in editing my rambling answers in a recent interview with Sony, some of my words, context, and intent were unfortunately lost, end quote. He'd then go on to post a section of the transcript that shows one section of the interview. He was talking about how The Last of Us TV show had shown non-gamers that video games were really powerful storytelling platforms, and he loved that reaction, and he's excited to continue working on his current and future projects in the hope that they elicit a similar reaction. That all sounds pretty good, and it's a pretty far cry from our next game will redefine mainstream perceptions of video games. Like, if you were really bad at your job and you had no interest in accurately reflecting what Neil said and you just wanted to put together a verbal hype reel, then sure, you could summarize it that way and it would be kind of in the general vicinity of correct, maybe sort of, but that's not what he meant, and that's absolutely not what he said. Some further days passed, and Sony then put out a statement on the matter. If you click the link where the interview was, you'll now see that the interview is gone, replaced by this apology. Quote, "In re-reviewing our recent interview with Naughty Dog's Neil Druckmann, we have found several significant errors and inaccuracies that don't represent his perspective and values, including topics such as animation, writing, technology, AI, and future projects. We apologize to Neil for misrepresenting his words and for any negative impact this interview might have caused him and his team. In coordination with Naughty Dog and SIE, we have removed the interview," end quote. A serious black eye for Sony's PR, but would you believe that that interview wasn't even the worst thing they put out this week? Sony were gearing up for a presentation to investors this week, and to help grease the wheels, they put up whatever the fuck this is.
Those stories, that fire inside us, it's catching. It's gonna leap, bound over the tangible, the digital, into realms untrodden, unimagined, beyond the edges of our little worlds, and into places no one's dreamed of yet.
This is Sony's vision for the future of video games, or entertainment, or the metaverse, or something. It's a promo reel full of products that don't exist, people doing things they will never actually do, and a voice breathlessly farting out inane phrases like they mean something. It's 2 minutes and 12 seconds of total nonsense, and I'm not even exaggerating when I say that it feels like AI made this. Like if you fed a bunch of prompts to ChatGPT and Sora with the aim of making a Sony entertainment hype reel for gullible investors, this is what it would spit out. I really did find myself checking the number of fingers on all the people in the video to see if I could spot the AI, since sadly we have come a long way since Will Smith's spaghetti. So that vision of Sony's future is not really anything, but one thing they are working towards is mobile, and we know this because just this week Sony put up a job advert for a mobile platform architect, and that role told us quite a bit about what Sony are thinking. Quote, "PlayStation Studios Mobile is seeking an experienced software engineer to design PlayStation's platform for developing, publishing, and operating free-to-play mobile games. An individual in this role will spearhead the design and implementation of this platform, working in partnership with internal teams to connect mobile games to PlayStation services and ensure that all mobile games meet PlayStation's quality standards," end quote. The quality standards they're referring to are, of course, those we experienced for ourselves in The Last of Us PC port. If you know, you know. Sony are unlikely to be going into the mobile space with the same gusto that Microsoft are. Microsoft just bought King, and that's kind of a big deal since they're one of the world's largest mobile game publishers. Still, it's a space with an absolutely absurd amount of money on the table, way more than what we see in premium gaming, so it's unsurprising to see Sony direct at least some of their resources here, especially after strong gains achieved in the PC market. Speaking of PC, did you hear what new PlayStation boss Herman Hulst had to say about PlayStation's approach to the PC market? Speaking to investors just today, he says that live services will always launch on the PC at the same time as on console, but that single-player games will take a different approach, launching on console first and PC after. We already knew that, so nothing new there, but then he went on to say that part of their strategy rests on the idea that PC gamers who buy a single-player game on PC will then purchase a console to play the sequel of that franchise. So Ghost of Tsushima has just landed on PC, and Holst imagines that next year, or whenever Ghost of Tsushima 2 arrives, PC gamers will run out and purchase a PS5 so they can play the sequel? I don't think it works that way, Herman. I'm sure some will, like maybe a few, but I don't think those numbers are big enough to really bank on them. I think PlayStation are still very, very early on in their understanding of how the PC market actually works, a point amply made by these comments from Holst and the recent Helldivers debacle and the delisting of Ghost of Tsushima from nearly 200 countries and territories owing to that restrictive PSN requirement. Speaking of Helldivers, you might be interested to learn that the CEO of Arrowhead Studios is the CEO no longer. He's gone, out of there, finito, bye-bye. But not due to any drama or anything like that. He's actually stepped back from the CEO position so he can become the Chief Creative Officer and Chairman of the company. Palstad says that this will let him focus more of his time on game making, which is his true passion. Quote, "Over the last year, going to launch Helldivers 2, I've been pulled more towards the business side of things and not able to focus as much on the creative side. That made me realize I needed to make some decisions, both for the success of the business and also for myself," end quote. He's succeeded by industry veteran Shams Georgiani, an industry veteran who spent the last 12 years at beleaguered publisher Paradox Interactive. Hopefully their time at Arrowhead Studios is a little less eventful than their time at Paradox because, yeah, they've certainly had some troubles. Alright, well that was a lot of Sony news, so how about some Xbox news? And news doesn't get much bigger than Call of Duty. Earlier, Microsoft had teased we'd get our first look at the new CoD after their annual showcase in June. That teaser was confirmed this week when Microsoft revealed the name of the next Call of Duty, which is to absolutely no one's surprise, Call of Duty Black Ops 6. We will get a deep dive look at it on June 9th, the same way we got a deep dive look at Starfield the year earlier. and it's honestly hard to say if going from a Starfield reveal to a CoD reveal is an upgrade or a downgrade. Here's what's really interesting though, just after Microsoft confirmed the name of the next Call of Duty, they confirmed that it would be coming day one to Game Pass. That is pretty huge. We are talking about the single highest selling game of the year, basically every single year for the past 15 years, and that behemoth of a franchise is coming day one to Game Pass. That means that you'll be able to play the new CoD on Xbox or PC for like $10, play through the campaign, play some TDM until you get bored, cancel your subscription, and you've had your annual CoD fix for $10. Honestly, I would have bet huge money against Microsoft making this move. The upfront revenue from CoD is hundreds of millions of dollars, and sure, a lot of that comes from PlayStation players who can't make use of Game Pass, but a fair chunk of it does come from Xbox, and to a lesser extent PC. Microsoft obviously feels like the numbers line up for them, either due to Game Pass subscription revenue that they'll pull in, or through the in-game spending revenue that is totally platform agnostic. It's a powerful statement about Microsoft's commitment to Game Pass though. This is them going all in at a time when Game Pass growth has been stagnant for over 2 years, and when many people are questioning the value and sustainability of Game Pass, both to consumers and to publishers. Other than Grand Theft Auto 6, there is no more consequential game that Microsoft can put on Game Pass than a brand new Call of Duty, and it's going to be genuinely fascinating to see what impact this has on both Game Pass growth and the broader Xbox brand, which has suffered nothing but setbacks since, well, for a long time now. Hey, here's a funny story. Want to hear how the Rainbow Six Siege community reacted when Ubisoft announced an exciting initiative on stage? Show 'em, Stu.
So as always, we'll be listening to the feedbacks.
The announcement here is a new monthly subscription to Rainbow Six Siege, and so I asked the good folks at Ubisoft, how exactly did you think this was going to go down? Did you imagine that the crowd would erupt in euphoric cheers, delighted at the prospect of being able to hand over more money? What do you think this is, an Apple event? The new monthly subscription costs $10 a month and grants Battle Pass skips, skins, credits, loot boxes, etc. Ubisoft says it's akin to roughly 4,500 credits worth of value each month, which is meant to be a discount versus buying those credits outright. And look, I'm not going to pretend like I know if this is a good deal or not, but I will say that the Siege community certainly aren't happy about it. Many comments on social media point to the fact that the game is already heavily monetized, and it isn't even a free-to-play game. You still need to buy into Siege to be able to play it, though it is a fairly nominal fee these days. The subscription reflects a growing trend across different live service games, including Fortnite, GTA Online, and Fallout 76. That's right, ain't no way I was going to fail to bring that one up, because I still cannot believe that Todd Howard will charge you like $15 a month for some bonus bullshit in that video game. Utter madness. Given the nature of this subscription and the work that Ubisoft have put into it, it's unlikely that they'll walk back this move, and in fact, I expect more live services to adopt this sort of thing in future. Destiny 2 subscription, anyone? I guarantee you, one day it will happen. A quick lightning round to finish off. All your bases belong to IGN. This week, IGN Entertainment acquired the Gamer Network, a vehicle that owns and operates a range of gaming websites including Eurogamer, Rock Paper Shotgun, GamesIndustry.biz, and VG247. Eurogamer and GamesIndustry.biz are two of the biggest and most important sites in terms of overall footprint and reputation, and now IGN owns them. Nothing against IGN, mind you, but that sort of consolidation of media is very bad and really shows just how unsustainable a lot of modern games media has become, owing to the ad-driven business models, low wages, low investment in talent, and the over-reliance on SEO slop. It's unclear what IGN's plans are for these newly acquired entities, but if I were a betting man, I'd wager nothing good. YouTube is getting back into the playable game space. We were promised Stadia, but what are we getting instead? Flash games, basically. The new Playables initiative lets you play simple, mobile-style games from the YouTube player, but it's like, why? Who asked for this? We already have phones that have way better games than this. I just can't see the sense in this, but it is very on brand of how Google choose to enter the gaming space. More Resident Evil remakes are on the way, and Capcom are doing the thing we all hoped they would do. This rumor originated from Twitter user Dust Golem and was later corroborated by both VGC and IGN. Dust says that Capcom are working on 2 remakes, the first being Resident Evil 0, okay, fair enough, but the big one, the one we've all been hoping and praying for, is finally happening. Resident Evil Code Veronica is in the works. I am so happy about this. Veronica was so sick, I just loved its weird vibes so much, and I hope they managed to retain that weirdness in the remake. Dust didn't provide any timeline for when we might learn more about all this, but it's been a while since RE4 Remake dropped, so hopefully we get an official reveal announcement sometime soon. And finally, it's official. Not a single person at CD Projekt Red is working on Cyberpunk 2077 anymore. When I spoke with them earlier in the year, they confirmed confirmed that they had no plans for major or even minor updates going forward, and with Phantom Liberty shipped and bug fixed, the studio now throws its full weight behind the next Witcher game, which is their next major release, the Cyberpunk sequel currently in development at CD Projekt Red's new Boston-based studio, and other smaller projects in conjunction with partner studios. Does this mean that we should expect to see more of the next Witcher game soon? I actually think it does, yeah, kind of. And I wouldn't be at all surprised if we got some sort of reveal before the end of the year. Will it be playable anytime soon after that? Absolutely not. We need to settle in for a long, long wait, I suspect, which is fine, because we've all seen what happens when you rush things, and we don't want to go through that again. So what got announced or delayed this week? Biggest announcement of the week is that Kingdom Hearts is coming to Steam, and modders are about to have a field day. Sure, the game's been available on the Epic Games Store for a while now, but no one buys games there, so this is basically like it arriving on PC for the very first time. There's a single bundle called the Integrum Masterpiece that includes either 3 games or like 12 games. I genuinely don't know, because the naming conventions for Kingdom Hearts games are literally the worst naming conventions of any franchise ever. I'm not sure if all those numbers and decimal points refer to actual releases, DLC drops, or like minor patches. I got no idea. Bottom line though, the entire Kingdom Hearts saga is coming to Steam, and you can buy it either in a big bundle or buy each entry separately. They'll arrive on June 14th. Sticking with JRPGs a while longer, Square Enix has held their annual Dragon Quest Day, May 27th each year, to commemorate the launch date of the very first Dragon Quest game. Square provided a brief teaser update on that Dragon Quest III remake, which is still in development and is now confirmed to be headed to all platforms, in line with Square's new multi-platform approach. The way Square phrased all of this, though, has led people to suspect they might also be working, or at least thinking about, a Dragon Quest I and II remake, but that is of course just speculation. Dragon Quest series creator Yuji Horii also put doubts about Dragon Quest XII to rest, responding on Twitter saying, quote, "Thank you so much to everyone for all the congratulations. I'm sorry for the worry about Dragon Quest XII, but I was just having a meeting about it. I can't say much yet, but I want to make something worthy of the posthumous work of the 2 people who passed away. I'll do my best," end quote. The 2 people he's talking about there are the lead character designer, the legendary Akira Toriyama, as well as composer Koichi Sugiyama. Quite the legacy to live up to. Wishing all the best to the Dragon Quest team for that one. An outfit by the name of Jupiter Corporation are bringing Picross back. It's called the Picross S Namco Legendary Edition, and it's Picross, like a lot of it. I'm not super into this, but Edmond was unreasonably excited when he found out about it, so I guess Picross is like his secret kink. This one arrives on Nintendo Switch on May 30th. Nightingale, remember that one? It's a lamplit-themed survival game that was released into early access earlier this year. Austin did the review for that one, link below the like button. It was not in great shape when Austin reviewed it for a bunch of reasons, but especially because it is, or was, an online-only game, and back then at launch there were no OCE servers, which made it basically unplayable for us, and unplayable for anyone who lived too far away from one of the data centers. Not a great way to design your survival game, and so the developer Inflection Games promised an offline mode would be added. It has now been added. The most recent game update delivers that feature, plus Joan of Arc and Edgar Allan Poe are now quest givers. Alrighty then. 2 event announcements this week. The first is for a Devolver Direct. They do these things every year, and they're usually pretty good, but last year they had this really shitty influencer guest on who just kind of ruined the whole vibe. I'm reliably informed that that douchebag will not be making an appearance this year though, so hopefully that event returns to form. It's going to be on June 7th, and we will of course be covering it as part of our annual Summer Games Fest coverage. More on that next week. And finally, Nintendrones who live in Sydney. This one's for you. I'm aware that's a very small population, but we never get anything cool here in Sydney, so it's pretty exciting when Nintendo decides to host a 2-day-long live event featuring hands-on sessions, tournaments, cosplay stuff, merch, and more. This was previously announced, but now we have a date for it. It's Saturday the 31st of October and Sunday the 1st of September at the ICC in Darling Harbour. I will be there, so if you happen to see me, please come say hi, but please do address me as sir, and do not look me in the eye. Thank you very much. So what came out last week? Well, one that I missed 2 weeks back, but really wanted to circle back to, was Songs of Conquest, the spiritual successor to Heroes of Might and Magic that I've had on my radar since I saw it years ago. I love the look of it because Heroes of Might and Magic was my jam, like one of the most important games of my childhood, so it's nice to see this style of game get a new lease on life in the modern era. The game has been in early access for a while now, but just 2 weeks ago it released into 1.0, and it's been getting really solid reviews from both punters and critics. On Steam, it's sitting at a very positive 86%, and there's over 7,000 reviews counted, so that's a strong sample size. Critics put it at a strong 81 on OpenCritic. Eurogamer scored it a 3 out of 5, saying, quote, While its battles can be surprisingly punishing and occasionally uneven, there's a lot of heart in this gorgeous turn-based tactics anthology, and the scale of its ambition just about sings through, end quote. This one's available right now, exclusive to PC. XDefiant dropped last week, or just before that actually. It's that free-to-play COD-style shooter from Ubisoft that we discussed earlier in the show. Despite the launch woes, the title has done okay for itself with critics. It's sitting at a fair 71 on OpenCritic, with reviews pointing to solid fundamentals that are held back by some odd design choices here and there, and a lack of content, especially when compared to how much COD is offering these days. Still, there's universal agreement that Ubisoft have got something on their hands here, and if they stick with it, it could one day be really great. Push Square wrote it up really well when they scored it a 7 out of 10 and said, quote, "It's not quite the breath of fresh air for the genre that the finals is, but more like a blast from the past. Is it a COD killer? No, but if Ubisoft can work its magic and go hell for leather with its multi-franchise post-launch content, then XDefiant could flourish into a regular staple of the shooter genre," end quote. Cutest release of the week was no doubt Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door, the remake of the classic GameCube game, given a lovely facelift and made playable on Nintendo's modern hardware, if indeed the Switch could be called modern hardware, because LMAO. This is a remake, but the way Nintendo are positioning it, it's almost like they don't want you to know it's a remake. The way they're naming it and marketing it all makes it seem like it's a whole new game, which is kind of smart because the GameCube install base was really small, and the Switch install base is unfathomably massive, so this will be the very first time that many people get to experience this. It's a point noted by Edmond when he did his review write-up for the game over on Patreon. That's freely available to everyone, link below the like button. He loved playing through it on the Switch just as much as he did on the GameCube, and he's certainly not alone in that perspective, as the game sits at an extremely respectable 88 on OpenCritic. IGN scored it a 9 out of 10, saying, quote, "There's a reason The Thousand-Year Door has been considered one of the greatest Nintendo games for the last 20 years, and this brilliant remake ensures it will maintain that reputation for at least 1,000 more," end quote. Duck Detective: The Secret Salami is one that a few of my friends have played through at this point, since you can knock it over in a single sitting, and every one of them absolutely loved it. It's a detective game inspired by the likes of Return of the Obra Dinn and The Case of the Golden Idol, only you're a duck, so what's not to love? Not much, it seems, as the game sits at a strong 81 on OpenCritic. Press Start scored it an 8 out of 10, saying, quote, "Duck Detective: The Secret Salami sets out to be a quick, breezy mystery, and at this it excels. It's full of fascinating characters with interesting relationships, set in a world brimming with detail to inform your investigation, and when at its best makes you truly feel like a detective on the case," end quote. It's been kind of sad to see how little press this next one's been getting. RKGK is a movement-based action platformer with lots of color and attitude and graffiti, and it's definitely giving Jet Set Radio, there's no doubt about that. This was revealed only a short time ago before being hastily released, skipping the whole marketing phase, it seems. I don't know if that was because of Gearbox's recent change of ownership, so this had to be kind of shuttled out the door more quickly than planned. Either way, it's a shame, because this looks fantastic, and by all accounts, it's a pretty solid game that no one is talking about, let alone buying. It's sitting at 73 mostly positive on Steam, but there are less than 100 reviews, and this thing is PC exclusive, so it is not selling. Critics are doing what they can. They put it at a strong 81 on OpenCritic. Silicon Era scored it an 8 out of 10 and were really taken with it, saying, quote, "If you love mastering movement systems, chasing style ranks, or just generally fighting the man with the power of street art, you need to play RKGK. Its visuals could use some more polish, but its fluid platforming mechanics are up there with the best," end quote. If this one interests you and you got a spare $20 laying around, then consider picking it up or at least wishlisting it. The team at Wasabi have clearly made a great game and it deserves to sell well. My favorite release this week was the Rogue Prince of Persia, which launched into early access a few days ago, exclusive to PC. Now, to be clear, this is an actual early access title in the sense that it's got placeholder stuff, it's light on content, and it's clearly nowhere close to release. But what is there is absolutely fantastic. And I know because I put about 10 to 12 hours into it this past week, unlocking about 2/3 of the available content in the current early access build. Love the combat, love the traversal, loved the music. Just been listening to the OST all week long, it goes super hard. I did a review for the early access build, link below the like button. TLDR, what's here shows great promise, but it does need a lot more time in the oven, so unless you'd like to provide feedback to the developers during the development process, maybe best to sit this one out until that 1.0 release, which I expect will be towards the mid to sort of back end of next year. Just as an FYI though, the game currently sits at a mostly positive 78% on Steam, which is a very respectable score given how light on content this is right now, a true testament to its inherent goodness. Fighting fans, a new platform fighter has arrived in the form of Multiversus, the IP free-for-all that is the only place outside of VR chat where you can watch Superman kick the ever-living shit out of Bugs Bunny. This has had various pre-release builds with lots of changes and tweaks made along the way, the net result being a release that the community are broadly pretty happy with, at least when it comes to how this plays. This is a free-to-play title though, and one published by Warner Brothers, which means you can and should expect all sorts of live service in-game spending bullshit that will piss you off at least a little, but probably a lot, depending on your tolerance levels. Steam reviews have this at a mostly positive 70%, with negative reviews pointing to the live service and progression stuff more than anything else. Either way, it's totally free to try, and it's meant to be a good time, so if you don't mind some of the drawbacks associated with the business model, then this has a good shot at keeping you and your mates entertained a little or a lot. Last release for the week was Capes, the game that's basically XCOM with superheroes, far more than Midnight Suns was, because that had a lot of freeform movement on the battlefield, and this whole sort of like randomized card deck system thing, which a lot of people didn't like. Personally, I loved it. Point is, Capes is much more strict down the line, grid-based XCOM. You know it when you see it. It has actually filled its intended niche quite well, it seems. No Steam reviews for this one yet, but it's sitting at a respectable 76 on OpenCritic. PC Gamer were quite complimentary, scoring it an 8 out of 10 and saying, quote, "The drama isn't in the cutscenes, it's in every nail-biting turn as you try and figure out the perfect combo to get out of another fine mess. It can be a serious challenge. If you're the kind of person who hates the idea of reloading the same mission multiple times looking for the right approach, this probably isn't for you. But meet it on its own terms, and Capes will give you 20 to 30 hours of wonderfully substantial and engrossing superhero strategy," end quote. That's available right now, exclusive to PC. So what's coming out this week? Well, this is a surprisingly big week with some stuff that feels like it really snuck up on us. First though is Skald Against the Black Priory, a very, very old school inspired dungeon crawler in the vein of Ultima. The trailer for this one was particularly cool, really nailing that whole D&D nerds listening to metal albums in their basement vibe. It's arriving exclusive to PC today. You cat people, here comes another one for you, only this isn't a cute cozy game, but a scrappy 2D platformer with a very distinctive art style. It's called Umberclaw, and it arrives for all platforms today. There's a new F1 game out on all platforms bar the Switch today. It's published by EA, of course, but developed by the Racing Legends Codemasters. The last time I played an F1 game was to test out a VR headset, and I must say it was pretty impressive. The game, that is. The headset too, I guess. Please, for the love of God, mark this next one in your calendar. This is Selaco, and it absolutely rules. It's built in the classic GZ Doom engine, albeit a highly modified version of it. It is a boomer shooter, sure, but the sophistication of level design, level destructibility, and enemy AI make this feel so much deeper and more modern than most of the boomer shooters you play. It's almost like if Fear was a boomer shooter, and the visual design is top-notch, and the movement is great, and it's just excellent across the board. I can say this because I played a good chunk of it a while back. They sent me a preview build. I've been speaking to some reviewers who are reviewing it right now, and they are loving it. This really is a game that you should go out of your way to check out. It's called Selaco, and it arrives in early access for PC on May 31st. Nightmare Kart is literally just Bloodborne Kart, and it was called exactly that until Sony sent them a letter being like, can you change the name? The developer gladly complied, just happy that the game wasn't being yeeted from existence. This is a free game, totally free to download from the project's website or from Steam, and it'll be available on May 31st, exclusive to PC. Star Wars Hunters is a mobile game that's also making its way to Switch. It's a 4v4 Star Wars themed hero shooter, and it looks kind of good, to be honest. When I checked out the gameplay trailer, I was like, okay. I'm sure this is not going to be particularly deep, and I'm certain the in-game spending stuff will be pretty bullshit, but it does like it would be some simple, mindless Star Wars themed fun. Maybe not for you, maybe for your kids or whatever. Either way, you can check this out on June 4th when it launches for mobile platforms and the Switch. And finally, biggest release of the week, and what would have been the biggest release of the month if it weren't for that pesky Elden Ring DLC. Destiny 2, The Final Shape arrives on June 4th, and I cannot believe that we are basically in June already. What even is time at this point? The Final Shape is the next and possibly last expansion for Destiny 2, with Bungie remaining very tight-lipped about where the franchise might go next. Will it be business as usual? Will Bungie scale things down while they focus on Marathon? Or are they cooking up Destiny 3 like many of us guess they are? We don't know, obviously, which does create an air of apprehension and uncertainty around this expansion, the likes of which we haven't seen before in quite the same way. In case you missed it, I actually played The Final Shape, 2 days of it in fact. I visited Bungie HQ, that was the trip I mentioned a little while ago. Definitely enjoyed a lot of what I played, got some question marks about some other stuff. Overall though, I'm excited to dive back in and conclude this 10-year saga, and I'm going to be very interested to learn what Bungie have planned next. If you'd like to see that full preview, then I've left a link to it below the like button. By the way, don't expect my Final Shape review anytime soon. I actually can't touch the expansion until after I get back from the Summer Games Fest, which means I'll be a week or more behind everybody else, so do look forward to my review at the back end of June. Alrighty, put this one on your radar.
Okay, I can see you're angry, but hear me out. You and your mates just stumbled into a rift. Think of it like a bubble of endless timelines, each different from the last. The problem is, entering a rift is a one-way ticket, and we need to figure out how to escape.
Maybe it's because I just watched Furiosa and I'm full of Aussie pride, but I always love being able to shout out games from my home turf. This is Macabre, and it's pretty interesting actually. It's a stealth horror extraction game. While games such as Hunt Showdown certainly have all three of these elements in the mix, that's still a competitive shooter, whereas Macabre is definitely a straight up horror experience, complete with scary looking woods and creepy old men saying weird shit and a whole bunch of tech that looks like it's pulled straight out of Ghostbusters, but like a scary version of Ghostbusters. It's from WeForge Studios, an independent Aussie outfit who have been working on this for a while in their spare time, but now they're ramping up development after a successful Kickstarter gave them enough funding to hit the accelerator. These sorts of horror experiences often blow up rather unexpectedly, so if you'd like to get in on the ground floor, then you can do so by wishlisting it over on Steam. I've left a link to it over on my Steam Curator page, which also has links to all of the other put this on your radar stuff I've recently covered. I'll leave a link to all of that below the like button. Sort of free stuff time now, and this is the last week of the month, so remember to grab those PS Plus and Prime Gaming goodies before they disappear. Epic were last week giving away Dragon Age Inquisition, hope you managed to grab that one. Right now they're giving away Farming Simulator 22, which you may scoff at, but there is a reason that these games have massive successful esports leagues when like not even many competitive shooters can pull that off. That's available right now, but later in the week it'll be replaced by 2 mystery titles, one of them expected to be Chivalry 2, which would be pretty nice. Only other shout this week is for the PS Plus lineup, which did get its refresh. For the Essential tier, you can look forward to SpongeBob SquarePants The Cosmic Shake, AEW Fight Forever, and the rather excellent Streets of Rage 4. The Premium tier does have some great inclusions this month, like Dredge, a really awesome Eldritch-inspired horror fishing game. Lego Marvel Superheroes 2, can never go too far wrong with a Lego game. Cricket 24 is in there. They finally turned the world's most boring sport into a video game. Enjoy yourselves, subjects of the Commonwealth. And Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, the Definitive Edition, is a mobile port of San Andreas that Take-Two tried to pass off as a remaster, and we all remember how that went. Interesting thing about the PS Plus Premium catalog this month though, is that it includes quite a few VR games. Ghostbusters, Rise of the Ghost Lord, Walkabout Mini Golf, Synth Riders, Before Your Eyes, and The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners Chapter 1 and 2. This is the first time this service has ever included dedicated PSVR 2 games, and now there's like 5 of them. Does it signal a renewed interest from Sony in the VR space? Absolutely not. This is likely them throwing a bone to VR game makers, given how little support Sony has provided the platform since launching it, and while it's nice, it is unlikely going to be enough to keep VR game makers invested in the PSVR ecosystem. Our feel-good story for the week is one we've been sitting on for a little while now, and I'm glad we finally had the chance to trot it out. Recently on Twitter, someone by the name of Tyler Glale tweeted out the following, quote, "If you're currently working on a video game, take a short break, pick a number in your code or data file, multiply it by 1000 and post the results," end quote. If that's at all unclear, it's like imagine a racing game where the top speed is 1 mile per hour, and the game's code is kind of built around that. Now imagine that that goes up to 1000 miles an hour. How might it feel to play Forza Horizon then? The results from Game Dev Twitter were spectacular. Indie Game Tossdown is about a delivery boy with the worst luck. Here's him outrunning 1000 rockets on one of his delivery routes. Certainly hope he's getting 5 stars after this. Mecha Ball is a game about a mecha ball, and in this case an extremely large one. The physics on this trampoline also seem to be at least a little bit affected by this number change here in this little dog game. Of course, sometimes the engine just can't handle it, like here with Anton Blast, where the value affected the number of feather particles that were being spawned. To be honest, I don't even know what the fuck this is, and I'm honestly just too scared to ask. But my personal favorite was this one from the Total War development team who took up the challenge, upping the number of arrows fired in a single volley, and, well, let's just say that the phrase "blot out the sun" does not cover it.
The enemy general has perished.
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, that is all I got for you. If you are still watching the video, then I hope you had a good time, and I hope you'll forgive me if I ask you to give that like button a good old slap. That is the best thing you can do to brighten a YouTuber's day. Assuming, of course, that you're already subscribed, because if not, the sub button, it's right there, as is the notification bell. Australians and New Zealanders, you still have one more day to enter the Gigabyte Aorus custom Shill Up PC giveaway. Link below the like button. Best of luck to any and all that enter that one, even you Kiwis. The podcast goes up on the channel this weekend, and then we'll go quiet for a few days before the craziness of Summer Games Fest begins. It's going to be an absolutely huge week, so I'm equally excited and terrified. That's for later though. For now, thanks for watching, and a big thanks to this week's sponsor, GeForce Now, powered by CloudGG, who just upgraded their hardware to RTX 4080s. So trust me, if you're in Australia, you're going to want to stick around for this. Alright Australians, this next part's for you. For a few years now here on the channel, we've been partnering with GeForce Now, powered by CloudGG, because it provides the most affordable path into PC gaming on high-end hardware. What I mean by that is, PC hardware is not cheap in terms of upfront costs, maintenance, and upgrades. GeForce Now, powered by CloudGG, is a cloud gaming service that lets you use high-end PC hardware in the cloud, while paying a fraction of the cost that you would have to spend if you bought that hardware up front. Plus, they take care of the upgrades. Case in point, just this past month, GeForce Now, powered by CloudGG, upgraded their hardware behind their highest membership tier. That tier was running NVIDIA RTX 3080 GPUs. Still great, plenty powerful, no problems there. But now, the ultimate tier is powered by RTX 4080 GPUs, the next generation of GPU that provides even more power so you can max those settings like never before. And best of all, this ultimate tier replaced the ultra tier at the exact same price. Could there be a better demonstration of the benefits of this technology? If you were to upgrade from a 3080 to a 4080, you'd have to buy that GPU outright, which is like $1,500 to $2,000. Here, you just log into your account and all of a sudden, you have the latest generation GPU without having to spend anything extra. That is wild. As for what that 4080 powered Ultimate tier enables, it's a lot. It does mean that you can max out settings on the majority of games that you play, because very few games can put a 4080 through its paces. It does mean support for up to 120 FPS when playing on select Samsung or LG TVs. Since these TVs have support for a 120Hz refresh rate, it means support for up to 240 FPS if you're playing at 1080p. Fantastic for competitive experiences like Overwatch or Counter-Strike. It does mean you can turn on RTX-enabled ray-traced effects, like ray-traced shadows, lighting, reflections, and more, and it also provides support for ultra-wide monitors, which is great if you're playing immersive open-world games or stuff like F1 or Flight Sim. All of what I've described is possible on basically any device, be it a smart TV, a tablet, an old computer, or even Apple devices, including iPhone, iPads, and Macs. Almost anything with a screen can suddenly become a top-end gaming PC thanks to GeForce Now, powered by CloudGG. There is a free trial available all the time, allowing you to test this for yourself, and for less than the price of a cup of coffee, you can get a full month of the basic tier membership, giving you the ability to stream games on the fly with ease. If you find yourself loving it and using it often, you may want to check out that Ultimate tier, giving you next-gen features like ray tracing, 120 FPS on select TVs, and ultra-wide support for PC monitors. PC gaming is, I think, the best way to go about it, but the cost of entry is intimidating, and you have to worry about all the upgrades and whatever else. Don't worry about any of that. If you just want to get into PC gaming without any of that cost or hassle, then GeForce Now is absolutely the way to do it, allowing you to play hundreds of PC games with ease. You can try it for free by clicking the link below. Thanks GeForce Now, powered by CloudGG, for sponsoring the video, and thank you for watching it.